Sydney Web is a leading provider of online solutions. The in-house team consists of 14 programmers and designers that have developed over 260 projects to date, and some of Australia's most prominent and well-known websites. GovCast Webcasting and Webinar Solutions provides a powerful distribution system for streaming conferences and live events, and can be edited and archived for subsequent on-demand viewing.
Can you tell us a little bit about the nature of this event and why it's been organised?
We started arranging these Breakfast Bites events last year because we felt that there wasn't really a forum for marketing and communications people in the IT industry to get together to discuss and debate issues of relevance. And we were looking at a topic to kickstart the program for this year, and we thought what better topic to pick but blogging.
And why blogging?
There's so much interest in blogging. As a communications company, we're picking up a lot of mainstream media now reporting on the power of blogging. There are a lot of companies very concerned about how to manage blogging internally. What do you do when company employees create their own blogs and feel that they have the ability to write and editorialise about things that are happening within companies? I think large corporates and large brands are looking at how can we leverage and take hold of this new phenomenon called blogging and use it to our advantage.
So are you finding that a lot of your clients are coming to you and asking you questions about blogging?
They're starting to. I don't think enough are asking the right questions, and we're hoping that these sorts of discussions will get people understanding the power of blogging and getting them to, as we discuss here today, actually going online and using it for themselves and understanding that, like it or not, it's here. And we like to call it the new media, but it's really not. It's here and it's becoming mainstream before we know it.
And how would your firm actually assist a company when they're considering blogging or looking at it?
Probably a number of ways. Firstly, understanding what's the strategy behind the blog, how could it be used. Secondly, actually creating the blog and helping from a content perspective in terms of managing blogs. And thirdly, managing perhaps any issues or crises that might occur around blogs, either internally or externally in an organisation. Turnout today just proves that it's something that everyone is very interested in, and the more that we can tell people about what it is and how it works, I think the easier it will be for everyone to start blogging.
Excellent. And one more question. Do you have a blog?
No, but I'm about to go upstairs and create one.
That's good to hear. Thanks. Frank, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Microsoft and how you've been using blogs and what is your blog site?
Okay, so I've been at Microsoft since '91. I've done a whole bunch of different jobs within the corporation, both here in Australia and in the US. In the last 3 years, I've been involved in what we call the developer and platform evangelism team. So I run a small team of about 7 people across Australia, and we work with different technical communities. So we work with the developer community, the academic community, and the IT pro community. So my team is about putting a face to Microsoft, to these different audiences. And I use blogs as just a way of doing that, of putting a face to Microsoft. I blog a lot. All the members in my team are starting to blog as a way of sharing and talking to these different communities. And it's been really good because these are guys who want to talk to us, but in the past they didn't know how to connect to us or contact us. They get a newsletter or they see me in an event or whatever, but that was a very inefficient way. This is a very friction-free way of communicating to our customers and actually hearing back from our customers. So I picked this blogging up because I just wanted, initially I started as a way of keeping up to date with my family, because I'm originally from Melbourne, my family's down there, and so I used the blog as, say, this is my kids, this is my family, all that stuff. And I realised this is another way of communicating with my customers, and sort of moved to another blog, set up a different focus that was about the work. So I've got a personal one and a work one, and try and keep the two separate. And it's been fantastic. I've met a lot of people in the last few months actually who, when we talk, they say, "Hey Frank, I feel like I know you for years because I've been reading your blog, and it's great to finally meet you." And it's been fantastic to get that reaction from people. To sort of say, "Hey, I made a connection now with these guys," and they know who I am. And it's, at the end of the day, what it's doing, it's kind of humanising the business. People think Microsoft, what is Microsoft? It's monolith, makes lots of money, it's Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer. But at the end of the day, Microsoft's made up a bunch of people who are trying to, do some good, and this is a way of actually doing that. Again, putting a face to who we are.
regarding to a couple of case studies that you guys mentioned, because, a lot of it came out of this Fortune magazine. However, there was one particular case study that wasn't mentioned or wasn't touched on, and that was Microsoft's experience with blogging. Can you share with us a little bit about what happened with Microsoft when they originally launched the blogging site Spaces?
Spaces is meant to be a consumer-friendly blogging experience for people to get online. And so a lot of people, when they started creating Spaces, they actually used a lot of, rude words. And so there were a number of people trying to push the envelope to try and see if they could create Spaces and create content that wasn't family friendly, that actually contravened the terms and conditions of it. Because, the users of Spaces are teenage kids, it's not just, the average geek. And so there were a lot of people that pushed the envelope and actually ended up getting their sites blocked because I'm not going to name some of the names, but they were rather inappropriate. All of the 7 words that you should never say on TV were used to create different names of blogs, and so they got shut down. And I think that was probably the only real controversy around Spaces that when it got launched. But Spaces have been pretty successful. They got to 1 million subscribers of people having blogs in a very short period of time. And the way I look at Spaces, it's really about bringing blogging to the mainstream, sort of bringing it to the people who are online, who are using instant messaging and using other tools, but don't really know how to start with a blog. And so some of the integration that they've done with Spaces is very cool. So within Messenger, I can have my little friends list, my buddies list, and they will get notified when my blog's updated, which is very cool. So all of a sudden I can write about, my baby and, the update and my cat and whatever I want to write about. And then my friends who are on my buddy list, they get a little icon next to my name, a little star, I think it is. And they go, oh, look, Frank's updated his blog. Let's go and have a read and see what's happening there. So that's really the power of it. It's the integration with all the other communications tools that we have through the MSN network. And in Australia, that's delivered through 9MSN.
So interesting subject that you touched on with regards to having Spaces inbuilt in Messenger 7 beta. What is Microsoft's strategy integrating blogging into MSN beta?
No, the strategy is exactly that. It's integrated. It's saying there's all of the different forms of communication tools that we have, and we want to leverage the power of the different tools and connect it. So the integration with Messenger is that little glyph that I talked about, the ability to see a preview, like a thumbnail preview of the blog, without actually having to jump through to it. And it's just a way of, because people have Messenger on their desktop, it's already there, they're already communicating, so it's just a way of leveraging that, extending that, and just introducing people to the concept of blogging. So I think it's a very powerful thing, and the good thing is there aren't many companies that are in a position that can do this, and Microsoft hopefully is doing it in a good way, and the consumers will like.
Earlier this morning we discussed a lot of our case studies, American case studies. In terms of Australia, bringing it back to Australia, are there any companies that are embracing this quite effectively, apart from Microsoft, that you know of?
To be honest, I mean, many companies embrace blogging yet. I've seen individuals within companies, so they're the thought leaders in the companies, but organisations wholeheartedly embracing blogging in Australia, it's still early days here. I think Microsoft is probably leading the way in the technology space. I can think of some of my peers and some of the people on my bloggers list. There's a company called Redify. They're basically a consulting company. They have trainers and they do development things, and all of their consultants are blogging, which is great. But that's very much Microsoft aligned. There's a company in Brisbane called Data3. They're a services company, and they've got a number of 2 or 3 young guys who are getting into this and started blogging. But it's still early days in Australia. I'm really keen to start seeing other companies, not just technology companies, but other companies in Australia embracing this and sort of using it as a way to have conversations with their customers.
So what is, at the end of the day, it all boils down to getting the chief executive or the MD to sign off on employees using blogging. So what's the business case study to them?
Well, look, I'll give you my example. I didn't get my MD to sign off on it. We're lucky that we're empowered to talk to customers. But, I turn this another way. What's the business benefit of talking to a customer? The business benefit is huge, right? There is no ROI on a blog. The ROI is on the result of, having an open, frank discussion with your customers and telling them about your products and hearing about problems and having that as a channel for feedback. That's the ROI, is having a communication channel for your customers. One of the things that I found over a number of years is people have had trouble communicating with Microsoft. We're seen as this faceless monster. and they go, we don't know how to talk to Microsoft. And that attitude is slowly changing through blogging. You know, I get a lot of requests from my blogs, not from people wanting to know about Visual Studio, but just general Microsoft related questions. And so I'm becoming a conduit of, you know, helping solve problems. And at the end of the day, that's the ROI. The ROI is that we're connecting better with our customers. And I think that's, you know, any CIO worth their salt will get that very quickly.
In terms of, there's been a bit of acronyms used, and one of them is RSS. Can you tell us a little bit about what RSS is and how it works?
Absolutely. You know, RSS stands for Real Simple Syndication. It's an acronym that really talks around the way in which, you know, this content can be shared. That's really what it boils down to. So, you know, I can talk some more acronyms. You know, an RSS feed is made up of XML tags, you know, and it's basically a document that consists of specific elements that is like the subject line, the copy of the text, the author. But what it is XML is effectively machine readable. So any application that understands this format can share it, read it, move it. So, you know, for me as a consumer of web blogs, I don't actually go to all these different blogs. I subscribe to an RSS feed. This information comes to an application running on my desktop known as an aggregator. In this case, I'm running an application called NewsGator that lives within Outlook. And so I read all my blogs in Outlook. So I'm not going anywhere to read it. And that's being used that's facilitated by the use of RSS. So it's a great way of sharing information. You know, RSS has been around a long time. It's just a simple way, you know, hence the name, Real Simple Syndication, a simple way of sharing this information and being able to repurpose content. You know, so I can consume a blog. You know, I've got an XDA2, you know, pocket PC phone. I'm able to read blogs on that because I have an RSS reader on my phone. The form factor is different, but it still works. It's readable, as well as I can read it on my pocket PC, as well as I could go on a blog, or I can read it on my phone. It just allows us to, you know, get to a content when it suits us.
Right, and for our viewers, what would your weblog be?
Oh, my blog, very simple. It's blogs.msdn.com/FrankARR. Or just go to any search engine and search on Frank Arrigo. I'm always the first entry up there, which is very nice.
Great, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
The best way to describe a blog is to use journalism as an analogy or a starting point. With journalists or journalism, you have the concept that a reporter will craft a story and essentially deliver that to its readers, or the magazine's readers, or whatever the publication is. And so that's if you like, a one-way method of communication. There is some degree of feedback in the form of letters to the editor and so on, but essentially it's meant as we will give you this information and you can consume it however you like. Blogs, on the other hand, are designed to be, by their very nature, two-way. And people talk about blogs being a conversation with people who have a particular interest in a certain area. At I guess, a very conceptual level, they're a personal website. They can either be produced using some hosted software, so essentially it's all completely online, or you can use software that you download to your computer. The concept being, you have something to say. It's a very personal site, and you might want to, for example, you might be a car enthusiast and you want to tell everybody about how much you love Ford Mustangs or something, and you'll be posting stories about the latest car that's come out, and you'll essentially be wanting to share your ideas with the world. The upshot of that is that you then find, and other people find you, and there's this idea of people sharing that knowledge. And in the IT industry, of course, where you've got so many enthusiasts, weblogs have really taken off in the last couple of years. I think at last count, I looked, there's actually a website called Tachnical, and they track the number of weblogs that are out there. There's currently over 7.6 million weblogs out there. So these things are just taking off like you would not believe. It's an incredible grassroots revolution. So how's that?
Thank you.
It's actually interesting. The 7.7 million, I was looking at the figures last night as well on Tachnical, and people are saying that the 7.7 million is really a Western figure. It really takes into account America, the UK, Australia, and the sort of the English-speaking languages. If you take into account people like Korea, which has like the biggest blogging group in Korea, has something like 11 million users in their own. So there's something like, when you add up all the figures come much closer to around the 30 million mark when you start to put in sort of, China, Korea, Japan, where it's that sort of communication on the web is a much bigger idea than we've actually got here.
Mick, while
While you're talking in your introduction, I made mention of podcasting, and I'm not sure about the others in the room, but I have absolutely no idea what that means. Perhaps you could explain to us, what are some of these innovations such as mob blogging and podcasting, and how are they useful?
Okay, we're blogging like 2 years ago now. It's really there, been there, done that. So yeah, sorry guys, it's there. We've passed that. So,
sorry, people, we've moved on. Yeah.
There's this whole new. I suppose there's this underlying technology that sits behind all of these sorts of communications elements that is referred to as aggregation and RSS. So in a technical term, it's a way of actually taking the content and being able to access it. And Frank's going to mob log right as we speak. It's a concept of having access to content remotely and being able to get it very easily without having to visit sites or to actually have to go to the sites to create the content. So what that's given us is the rise of things like mob blogs, which is mobile blogging. So as Frank's done then, Frank's just taken a photo with his little XDA and he'll Bluetooth it or do something across to his laptop, to his tablet PC, and he'll actually connect up to an image holding site on the web and actually post that image while we're sitting here. So in 10-15 minutes, or probably less, in like 2 minutes, in theory I can sit here and take one with my phone and send it direct from my phone, and in 30 seconds I can have a photo of this audience sitting up on the website for people to look at. So it's the ability to actually take and do mobile posts, so whether that be audio, video, photography.
It's sending it.
It's sending it. Sorry. So mostly it's sort of photography is what mob blogging refers to. It's quite interesting to see that people take photos of a lot of things doing mob blogs, but it's interesting to see where that's possibly being used by the press as well. About the middle of last year when the mob blogging was really starting to take off, and you've got to look at the figures for mobile handset penetration to see where this is actually going. And you know, you're going from this year, they're expecting about 55 million handsets with camera phones enabled. By 2008, they're talking 210 million handsets being sold. So the whole concept of buying a phone with a camera built into it is going to just be standard with phones in the future as they come out. So in countries like Japan, what you found last year was that news organisations were actually taking photos from people on the scene. So you were getting robberies or car accidents on highways, and they were actually being sent to a newspaper or to a website that was actually a traditional news organisation from just people out in the field. So it's seeing a real rise in that journalism from the people and no longer having to rely on actual journalists to do that.
Yeah, you've heard of citizen's arrest. Well, now we have citizen journalism. So look out.
Yes. And it's got some other uses as well. It's quite interesting to see that in England last year there was a young boy who was travelling home from school and he had his mobile phone and someone's pulled up in the car, tried to do a snatch on him. The kid's taken a photo of the guy in the car, got to the police station, actually shown them, or got home, shown the photo to the police. Within 8 hours, they'd actually tracked the person down and arrested him. So the concept of having phones with cameras that people can use is just becoming so much more widespread. I can actually take up my phone, ring a number, sit here and go, hey, I'm sitting here in the middle of the breakfast blights thing, it's really cool, Frank's just posted something. And once again, within 5 minutes, I can have that sitting up on a website. So that has huge implications for this whole citizen journalism type thing. Mob blogs, audio blogs, that's obviously heading into video blogging in the future, and people are starting to play with that at the moment. So being able to take video, because once again, with these portable devices like phones and so on, I can now capture video and actually send that up live. Or these guys sitting here taking the footage now, instead of actually having to go and watch it on Foxtel, you can actually be able to go to a website and grab it. So it's not necessarily like downloading video off the web, it's a slightly different structure, and that's where the technicalities of this aggregation comes into play. Podcasting, which I'll touch on pretty quickly. Podcasting's a concept of, once again, it's just, you'll find us talking about aggregation. Podcasting is like internet radio, but what it allows me to do is to actually record a show, put it up on a website which people subscribe to, and when they go home at night, they take their iPod, they'll actually dock it, and it will automatically move that content across to my iPod. So
it's not just an iPod.
It's not just an iPod.
It's not just the Microsoft guy says. It's not just an iPod thing.
And everyone just is calling it iPod because that's the guy who invented it called it an iPod because he's a Macintosh guy. But it's any portable. I mean, I can do it on my Pocket PC. I can do it on a Creative Zen media player. I can do it on any. It doesn't have to be an iPod. But the concept being that I can